Hey folks, it's us, podcasting wonderkins John Bishop and Lucas Southworth.
Although this is a podcast about cars, it is not age appropriate for the target demographic of these films, as we usually end up talking about the reproductive organs of Lightning McQueen.
Alright, now let's take a look under the hood. Hello, I'm Lucas Southworth.
And I'm John.
And welcome to The Chat, the only podcast brave enough to ask the question,
Cars. What's up with those?
In this episode, we are going to explore the childhood of these beautiful machines. We are going to look under the childhood, as it were. I forgot to do the pun we planned, John, and I'm sorry about that.
That's perfectly fine. I think this works. First order of business, I think it's always best to start with corrections, and we have none because we're perfect. So moving on.
We're very good at this. We're not, but we will be. Stick around.
All right. So today's topic is childhood and, in general, aging. What's that like? Because they definitely do. I can't understand how.
They do, in fact, definitely do age. We know this from a few examples. Our biggest clue comes in Cars 3, which John still has not seen. We're saving that one for you. But in Cars 3, the lovely character, Cruz Ramirez, gets very angry at Lightning and starts yelling at him, saying, I used to run laps before school every day, and I was the fastest kid in town. And that's our biggest clue, is that weird line. Which one? Why would you call it running laps? You're a car. Driving laps? You're not running. I guess you are running in a way. But like your engine's running? That's neither here nor there.
Yep.
There are some other examples throughout. There are Mia and Tia.
You say that that's our biggest example, and I would argue we do have stills from the movies with what is clearly children in them. Very few, but they're there.
You have a very good point. I suppose a bigger clue would be the actual presence of children cars throughout the movies, of which there are a few.
A point could be made.
That's my beat.
A point could be made that because there's an actual named character who is significant to one of the movies, that could make it bigger. But also, there, strangely enough, is a child that is a named character in the audience in, I think, the first movie.
Yes. John is, of course, referring to Coriander last name. I've closed the wiki page, I will admit.
That's completely fair. I also closed the wiki page for that.
I want to say Coriander Wide Road? That's not right.
No, that sounds right. The one who has an antenna decal that is a plane, which also, weird choice.
Yeah, she seems to want to be a plane. According to, I'm back here on Coriander Wide Tracks wiki page. She has an equally fantastic bio description. If you remember last week, I was a big fan of Trev Diesel's bio description, and if you don't mind, I'll just go ahead and read this one in its entirety as well, if you don't mind.
Please do.
Young Coriander Wide Track has no interest in racing. Her eyes are on the skies. While the other cars in school race around the playground pretending to be Lightning McQueen, Coriander turns that blacktop into blue sky, imagining she's soaring 10,000 feet in the air and racing to exotic destinations. It's Coriander's dream to someday meet her idol, jet fighter Marco. I guess that's his full name. It's just Marco. I guess he's maybe the plane who, like, flies over.
Yep.
Oh, are you on his wiki page? His entire intro is just
As a
Marco is a jet.
twin engine jet fighter, Marco gets to go on
That's
many
very
dangerous and
good.
exciting missions. His favorite missions are all what? His favorite missions, oh, his favorite missions of all are all the crowd pleasing, low altitude piston cup flyovers. So I guess that's what he did. Just fly over the piston cup.
That's probably when our friend Coriander was seen. She probably is looking up in awe at Marco flying over. I don't know. It's interesting that Coriander Wide Track gets a full name, but the what her whole character is admiring another character who does not get a full name is just Marco.
I prefer to think of Marco as like just a Madonna type.
I could see that. That works.
He's he's a specific kind of famous because he's, the guy who flies over the piston cup.
I just cannot stress enough that his little first section of his wiki, well, like Coriander gets like Coriander White Track is a character in Cars while she's seeing blah 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 blah. Uh, all Marco gets is Marco is a jet. That's his entire first section of his wiki. I love that. Marco is a jet. That's all you need to know about Marco.
This is strange. I'm not seeing the same thing.
Are you on worldofcarsdrivein.fandom.com/wiki/Marco?
No, I'm on pixar.fandom.com/wiki/Marco
Oh,
underscore parentheses cars in parentheses.
what an embarrassing mistake we've made. We've got our Cars wikis mixed up.
Ah, that explains everything.
Although I will say, when you were reading your intro, it was word for word Marco's bio on his.
Okay. See,
So they're clearly mixing their sources a bit, borrowing from each other, perhaps.
I wouldn't necessarily say from each other. I have a strong feeling that it's one took from the other. That's probably it.
That's fair enough, yeah. Uh, anyway, there are children who are cars in this movie. That's pretty weird.
So there are car ate students in the second Cars movie, Cars 2. And these students are all the same type of vehicle, but all three of these students are clearly like teenagers or children because they're all smaller than regular cars. And even stranger than that, they're all different sizes.
Ooh, that is
There's
interesting.
one that is smaller than the other two by a significant amount, which is clearly a denotation of, oh yeah, he's almost certainly the youngest, which which is so strange because they're cars, and cars, they have a make and model, and then all of that make and model are the same. Well, and year.
And I mean, well, I guess their years would be different if they're different ages, I guess.
But they're all the same, like they're the exact same shape, just different sizes. They're even the same like paint job.
Huh.
It's
And
so
I mean,
strange.
there is other evidence of them physically growing besides just there being small cars. I mean, Mia and Tia are favorite fangirls of Lightning, who we often bring up for flashing lightning in the first movie with their headlights. That's our big evidence that those are reproductive organs, if you were wondering. Uh,
Which also gross because of what we're about to point out.
yeah, they are in fact smaller than most cars. So I guess the assumption is they're teenagers.
Yep, that's real gross.
Lightning seems a little too into it for me now that we've brought that up.
I want to say, well, they could be like 19 or 18, but typically that's developmentally past the growth stage,
Yeah, and I
so
mean,
they couldn't get any bigger than that. So maybe they're just strangely small cars.
yeah,
Or maybe
I
Cars universe is gross because every universe is gross because the world is sad.
that it is. I mean, you're right that it's possible they're just small cars, but I mean, they also give them a lot of mannerisms that one might associate with like stereotypical uh, like teenage fans of things. So I think the implication is that they're teenagers.
Okay, so yeah, there are different ages, there are different sizes, and that's super weird. How do you have that in this universe? Even with our theory of you were born like this weird fleshy bit, and then you're put into a body that is a mechanical bit, it I that would mean you'd have to switch bodies as you age, because one would assume that your squishy bit would have to get bigger, but at the same time you wouldn't necessarily have to. You could just have a body that's like made for all ages. And then there's, right, what about like the train has a kid, its kid is it going to be a tiny little train?
You'd need tiny little train tracks for that.
It wouldn't be able to do
Are there
anything.
tiny little train tracks?
Tiny little train tracks. That's adorable, but also they wouldn't be able to walk if there weren't.
Yeah, you're absolutely right that this one does screw up squishy bit theory an awful lot. At very least, it makes it more complicated.
There are animals in our world that grow out of their exteriors, like things that just shed, things that need new coats. Even like snails, they sometimes get new shells, I think. Is that a thing?
I think so, yeah.
There are creatures that get new shells. So I guess they could do that, but then there would just be so many left over, unless everything's like a hand me down, but that wouldn't make any sense because clearly the parts can just stop working. But like they would need a perfect recycling facility to just constantly be switching out child bodies for newer child bodies.
Yeah, and I guess what we haven't explored is the idea that maybe somehow these shells grow with them. These metal shells.
That would require some interesting things with this metal that kind of defeat the purpose of it being metal in certain aspects. Like, sure, it's a car, it needs wheels, it needs absurd rotation, which means it needs to be actually just like metal and able to rotate freely from the squishy bit. But like that wouldn't be able to grow.
Yeah.
Which brings me to my fun fact, my very fun fact. All right, so MIT Technology Review, or technologyreview.com, has an interesting little article about the concept of self-healing metals. You wanna
Ooh.
hear something real interesting in regards to how you can actually heal some fractures in metals?
Yeah, absolutely.
They found out that in certain situations, if you were to put a cracked metal under a specific kind of tension, instead of pulling it apart, it can cause the crystalline structure of the metal to, in some way, realign, which fused the crack back together. So its tension actually healed the metal. So they actually found a property of metal that could be used in self healing for metal that's based on tension, which is very, very strange to me, but also would work with a body that is growing, I guess. The only problem is you'd have to have a very like thick body that is capable of getting much thinner without that being a bad thing.
Yeah, that's really cool. That could make the shells growing with them a thing, but like at the same time, we see a lot of damage come to Lightning in Cars 3 and he just gets it like replaced and repaired.
I
So,
mean, there's a point where there's just too much damage. Also, maybe infection could have set in for this weird biometal.
yeah, but like would that just become part of his shell that is like somehow biologically reacting to him, or would those be like prosthetics, or what do you think?
What happened when Turbo cracked his shell?
I have not seen the movie Turbo.
You haven't seen Turbo? Oh boy, we gotta watch a lot of movies.
Yeah, for this show, stay tuned for Turbo is definitely a prequel to Cars episode. I'm gonna say 13.
Who knows? Who knows? All right. Okay, so I'm pretty sure a snail in that movie cracks the shell and they like put a band-aid on it or something. And that's just fine. But like that's got to be terrible, right?
I mean, I don't think snail shells heal. I think those are like, I don't think snail shells are like part of the snail. They're something the snail lives in, yeah? Or am I making that up? I don't know a lot about snails when
That's
it comes right down
I
to it.
think that's definitely true for hermit crabs, but I don't know about snails.
It's too bad there's no possible way for us to find that answer.
None at all.
And I mean, the the third possibility, we're just not going to tell you how snails work. You can figure it out if you want. The third
Message the show.
possibility,
Message the show. It'll be a correction.
yes, we will update you next week. We're not going to do the Googling, though. You have to. But the third possibility, I guess, for this is that they're magic and they have magic bodies. But that sort of ruins all of the show if we assume that it's a magic world where people are
I
cars
wouldn't say it
and we
ruins the
shouldn't
show. It just
question it.
ruins certain aspects of the show. Like, well, how does this work? The
This
answer would be
episode.
magic. How does this work? The answer would be magic. We would just have to explore a lot more lore and interesting stories than talking about how weird car bodies are. They don't have hands, man.
I know, bud. We're gonna get past that. We're not gonna get
How
past
does
it. I don't know why I
how does she
implied
get the
we would.
plane decal on her antenna?
I guess a possibility is that her antenna is a fine manipulator and she could just sort of bend it and scoop it. But I don't like thinking about that too much.
That's real gross. That's real gross. It's like a lot of
Otherwise, maybe the the place that, because it's like clearly a souvenir from the race she was at. So maybe
yeah.
the shop was set up in a smart enough way that you just like purchase it with money. We gotta explore the economy of this world at some point. That's a very good idea. That should go on our brainstorming doc.
Does
But
anyone
anyway,
ever mention actually getting paid?
I don't know that they do. I think there's some stuff in Cars 3 about how like something cost a lot of money.
Okay, because I think they mentioned like sponsorship because like Dynaco is a big thing.
Yeah, and the sponsors. So money's definitely a thing.
Like, because when he imagines working for Dynaco, he just gets a new paint job and everyone loves him.
I think the implication though is that he's also rich because he like everything is happening for him, and that's what happens to rich people.
But he could be like rich in fame and fans and items rather than money. Because he only seems to care about the cup, not winning anything but the cup.
That's fair enough, but like also he wants to win the Piston Cup, so he'll be represented by Dynaco. It's not he thinks Dynaco will help him win the cup
Yeah, he wants to win the cup and he wants to work for
and
Dynaco,
win more cups. I guess. Yeah,
but
I see what you're saying.
I don't think there's like anything like I want to win this race so I can get the Piston Cup and also $50,000
I'm certain there's mention of money somewhere in there. I don't know when it was
because
though.
they go to like buy a lot of stores and whatnot, and people do things that would have cost a lot of money. And there's a mansion and a wealthy man, but like I don't know.
Yeah, and in Radiator Springs and in Cars, the first one, they all just sort of give lightning things. They just like, here's my special fuel from oh, I can never remember his name. The hippie van. The hippie van just gives him his special fuel, and uh, Ramon gives him a free paint, or I assume a free paint job, and Luigi and Guido give him his special white walled tires, and like, there's no mention of him being like, yeah, I will pay you because I am an athlete and can afford these things or anything like that. They just, it seems like they're just giving him freebies.
Yeah, and also the town seems to be down on its luck, but also they're all kind of doing fine after years of not actually having anyone go through their town.
Yeah, like the general implication was like the new highway was built so no one came through their town, so it is in like economic trouble, but like they all still have their businesses.
Yeah, it's clearly been quite some time, and no one's gone out of business.
Huh. Well, this is all great material for the economy episode.
All right. Okay, so we haven't seen very many families. We've seen a few examples of kids. We've seen different sized vehicles and all that jazz, but like we haven't really seen many families. I think there was an example or two that you can find online of like a still of, oh look, it's a baby with its mother, and there's a baby crying in the background of one scene. So babies are a thing, kids are a thing, but like you don't really see very many families.
Yeah, the
I think you see a few couples, but I don't think you see any couples like with their kid in any significant scene or any significant way.
there's a bit in Cars 2 apparently where one of the racers waves to his mom as the race is about to start or something. But
Hmm.
that's the most direct reference to family I was able to find. And well,
Yeah.
Cruz does talk about her family and her rant as well. She says her family always says dream small, which one whose
What?
family says keep your dreams small? What kind of terrible parents are like, hey, you're not gonna be anything, kid, so don't even try it.
Dream small and you might actually amount to your
I
dreams,
think
I
that's what they
guess.
were saying.
Oh boy, I mean, that's a real bleak realism, I guess. So like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think Cruz had a rough family life.
But not so rough that she couldn't participate in extracurricular activities? Or did she just run like she wasn't was she on a track team or not?
She didn't mention like any sort of team. I think she just trained because she wanted to be a race car.
Oh, what if she also was trying to run away from her tragic
It
past?
would be so easy to run away in the Cars universe.
I mean, especially if there's no like defined economy and
Yeah.
you don't actually need like hands for anything, I guess. And I don't know, what if you're in the body that you're always going to be in, then you're just going to look like an adult. But if that's true, then also like the small child cars that you see are just always going to be super small.
Yeah,
They're going to be like Danny DeVito types.
I feel like the big,
Is Danny DeVito in the Cars universe?
not explicitly, but I mean,
He
Arnold
should be.
Schwarzenegger and Jay Limo are basically in it. Jay Limo is in it. Jay Leno is basically in it. So we could
Okay.
assume there's a Danny DeVito car.
I want him to be in more things.
Danny DeVito truck. He'll be a tow truck like Mater. Yeah, they're friends.
But he only tows like very specific strange vehicles. Like the Batmobile. Ayo.
That's a reference to his time as the Penguin.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like the big like hurdle for children running away is that they don't have driver's licenses, so they can't
Do
like.
you need one in this universe? Because if you did, that would be
I
a
would
real
hope not.
uncomfortable legal way of making, like, taking away people's rights. You can't even walk, I guess.
I mean, they boot Lightning in the first movie.
Oh no, he could still walk. They could take away your ability to drive without taking away your ability to travel because he can just move the tires. It just really sucks.
I can't assume that they would boot all the children until they've what proven that they can travel in smart ways.
It might just like have, well, if we assume squishy bit and we assume they're given a body, then we could also assume that like those bodies could just have built-in limits. Like, oh, you can't go above 30 miles an hour,
Yeah, I guess that could be a very easy way to police that.
which
Sounds pretty
that's
dystopian to
uncomfortable.
me.
Yeah, I don't want my kids to be able to run away, so if they try to run away, they're gonna have to do it very slowly. Oh
Gosh,
boy.
that's spooky.
The good news about that would be kidnapping would be incredibly difficult for anyone who isn't like a semi truck.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Mac and like the trains could get away with it. You're right, but Mater could get away with it too with his tow cable. But
I mean, here's the thing. Part of kidnapping is like you don't want anyone to see that you're taking the person. Mater,
that's fair. Yeah,
they're completely visible and can be screaming the entire time he's kidnapping them.
that's very true. Yeah, I didn't think that one through very thoroughly.
But interesting little thought. What if like a plane wanted to kidnap someone, so they flew down real low, and like I don't know how they would do this, but like somehow just scooped up a car.
Like a plane? Oh, that would
Like
be very spooky.
it'd be like hawks and small animals, except for they're all people.
That's a real possibility that I guess they could do, but I guess I hope that Sky Society also has laws and law enforcement to prevent them from hunting the cars like mice.
Okay, so there are small cars, there are children cars,
Yes.
and there are two examples we can think of probably in between cars. And I guess if you want to do the car ate students, then you could say like there are different sized children, but we don't have any examples of like size change within the movies. Like there isn't a character from the first movie that we see in the third movie who has physically grown.
Yeah, and Mia and Tia are in both, and it's been what, like 12 years in between them? 10 years? And they look the same.
So that's comforting because that means they weren't definitely like gross teenagers. They could have been like 18 or 19 and just been normal gross teenagers.
Or they could just be like gross 30 somethings who act young and are small.
Do their voices change? Do they sound the same 10 to 12 years later?
I mean, I don't remember directly hearing them, but I don't. I think I would notice a significant change in their voice. So I gotta assume that they don't.
Aging in the Cars universe, very strange topic. Let's talk about Doc.
Yes.
It's not stated how he dies, right? I don't remember them ever saying anything about how he dies. There's just like, oh yeah, he's not here. He wishes he could have made it, I guess. But
I
like,
think the implication is it was old age. They
yeah.
don't explicitly say that, I don't think, but I think that's the implication.
So cars definitely are phased out in some sort of way. And the implication is still there of, yeah, he was an old vehicle. It may have been just kind of his time to go, but I don't know. Cuz like he had sustained some sports injuries throughout his life and
Yeah,
maybe had a rough time getting around.
we did talk about that in a previous episode, but we do think he did die like a little bit before is like normal for cars because of his massive crash.
Mhm.
Because like he is, there are a bunch of his friends in Cars 3 who are presumably his same age, and his mentor is in Cars 3 who is presumably older than him.
Mhm.
So he was at the very least the first of like his peers to pass on to the great highway in the sky. But uh, I don't know. He's clearly still aging, and so's Lightning to an extent. Like he can't race like he did in 2006 in Cars 3.
Mhm. Didn't we discover that he may have been like 2 years old when he won his first race? I think so.
If like the year of the car is in fact the year they were born, then yeah, I think that we decided that.
Yeah. If that's how we're going about this, then he was like maybe was he mid 50s when he probably died? Cuz I think it was like 56,
I think he's based on a 51 Hudson Hornet.
51.
I think I read that on a wiki earlier. So don't think that I have encyclopedic knowledge of the Cars universe yet.
He would have
So he would have been like what? Movie came out in 2017, 18. Cars 3.
Cars 3, but he died before Cars 2.
Yeah, he did. You're absolutely right. He died in between Cars 1 and 2. I always forget that.
And Cars 2
So
came out
I want to say
11.
2010 to 12. Yeah.
All right. So
So it would have been like what, 60,
he would have
59?
been under 60 almost certainly when he died.
So yeah, that's not with modern medicine at the in our world. That's pretty young.
Yeah, but that is assuming his make and model are when he was born, which
Yeah.
I think is probably a good safe assumption, but who knows? Assuming that a 2-year-old won a race is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Again, we're talking about aging though. What if he was born in a body and he was a child in a body that was just the same body he was going to have as an adult? He could have been a 2-year-old who won that race.
Yeah, and I mean it's also entirely possible that they just age faster,
What if,
or at least get through their
yeah,
childhood and pubescence faster than we
what if
do.
they're like, I want to say dogs. How fast do dogs reach full maturity?
I feel like it takes like a year, maybe a little more.
That would make perfect sense for this then. So,
Yeah, but dogs also live like 15 to 20 years.
which brings me to my very not fun fact.
That what I did was a very not fun fact, but go ahead.
Yeah. Oh boy, gotta figure out. There you go. All right. So my very not fun fact is from consumerreports.org. The average age of all cars on the road is more than 11 years, but cars tend to be about 8.4 years old in regards to usability and like that's the general age cars live to be in our world.
Wow, that's less than I would think.
I think the average age is more than 11 years, and a lot of people try to keep their car for 200,000 miles. But for a race car, 200,000 miles, I guess.
You burn through that pretty quick as a race car.
I don't even know if, like, it's kind of like athletes nowadays. They burn through their body's capability of going that far real fast.
Oh man, we could make a very stark comparison to the NFL and their mortality rate.
Yeah, but that's for another very not fun reason that
Yeah,
I really hope not what was implied in Cars 2.
I think that could be a very direct comparison we could make with Doc dying young and also athletes in our world dying young, and not just the NFL. The WWE has a very big problem with that.
Oh yeah, WWE. But with the NFL, it's it's because of yeah, that's real sad. Concussions are a serious problem, and I imagine that being a race car that has gotten into a severe accident that could cause the sort of brain damage that you know could lead down to some yeah, that's real sad. Let's move on from that real sad tale.
We are doing some uh, some extended sad portions in our recent episodes. We need to
I'm
buck
trying to
that
avoid
habit a
that
bit.
right now because
Yeah, let's.
all right, so let's avoid that topic and just assume that he just happened to have a physical ailment that killed him because that's happier, right? All right.
Sure.
So that being considered, he was 40 years more than the average shelf life of a car, so that's impressive.
Yeah, but I mean, we also have a literal Model T living in Radiator Springs, so
I
who
mean,
can say how long these things live?
who knows? Because in our real world, there's a very common thing of older cars get they get taken care of. They are show cars. They are all these various things, and it just basically means that someone has to take care of them, replace anything that gets broken, and like fix them up. Which basically just means if you have enough money and enough time and enough care, a car could live indefinitely, I guess. Which means if we're using that as a comparison, cars could be immortal. but there's also the concept of totaling and also how much money someone's willing to spend, which, if money is a thing in this universe, could just mean that cars dying means they run out of money.
Yikes, we're getting back into territory.
I mean, it's able to be thought of as a bummer, but also it's what if there's another tie-in movie that we haven't been discussing?
Oh, that one where you have to pay to stay alive?
In Time with Justin Timberlake.
That was JT in that movie?
It was.
I have not seen it.
It was pretty good, if memory serves. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I liked it. Oh man, that was an interesting
That
concept.
one's more of a conceptual tie-in than a direct one.
I don't know. You make an economy based on, oh, we can now extend and shorten lives at will, and then eventually those people become just masses of ooey gooey nasty, and then you put that ooey gooey nasty into a robot body after technology has developed to a certain point. Extreme prequel.
Yeah, I mean, you laid it out. There is a possible line to be drawn from the Timberlake seminal classic In Time to Disney Pixar's Cars.
Okay, so money is equal to life in this universe. You can age extremely fast like a dog. All right. So that's probably why you don't see very many kids. Because all the kids only are kids for like a year. And then all of a sudden, you're an adult. But that would mean they're like the kid industry of bodies being used. That's got to be real fast turnaround.
Yeah, I don't know. That would be very difficult to keep that industry going. I don't know.
Oh
Are we
boy.
gonna talk? I feel like we've been dancing around it, and we've talked a little bit about giving birth before. But are we going to get into
Our question
reproduction
from
anymore?
Liz. Yes.
Oh yeah, lay it on me.
All right, question from Liz. You'll have to guess which one. This question is if Toe Mater, if he is canonically a doctor in Mater's Tall Tales, has he ever assembled a baby car?
And that doesn't just apply to our good friend Toe Mater. Doc Hudson was like a doctor in Cars. He wasn't just called that for fun.
He was also a judge, and he that's so strange.
He's a man who's wore many hats.
Professional race car, judge, I guess jury too, because was there a jury in that court scene?
I don't think so, but it could have just been.
A smaller case?
I don't know. There are legal proceedings that happen without jury present.
Yeah. I think it's well, here's the thing. He caused so much damage that like it's above the amount that would be required for a jury to be present because he destroyed
Yeah,
their street, like their entire road, right?
yeah. Just he and more than that, like the statue flew into some windows and
Yeah,
knocked over the big wheel tower.
massive property damage. So for that big of a crime, I think there would have to be I don't know. We should learn about law and then do our law episode because also weird concept.
Yes,
So there's a cop car.
yes.
And when he gets arrested, they have Mater drag him because, it's a cop car. And in our world, you put the criminal inside of the car, and then that's how that works. But, like, in this universe, arresting people, do you have to just call a tow truck?
I guess. And like,
Does that mean Mater is also an officer of the law?
I mean, at the very least he becomes deputized in Cars 2 with like, uh, is it like MI6
Yeah.
or Interpol, some European intelligence agency
I feel like
deputizes
it's
him basically.
probably. Uh, is Interpol all of the world? Like, they work together?
It's mostly based in Europe, but they do, I think, some fully international stuff.
Because one of the spies that worked for that agency was Bruce Campbell. Not Bruce Campbell, but Bruce Campbell. And Bruce Campbell's definitely not European.
Yeah, he has American plates. I remember we talk about that in our Cars 2 episode. Is that he is definitely an American.
Man, they blew him up. That's weird.
That's an international incident, is what that is.
Oh yeah. All right. So That's all super super weird.
We sure didn't answer the question from Liz.
I mean, we've talked about biology, right?
Yeah, yeah, heavily.
Okay, so theoretically, as a doctor, would he be more concerned with the mechanical aspects or the icky gooey part?
I mean, I guess it'd be. I feel like it'd have to be two separate positions almost, you know? Like, because I mean, doctors and surgeons are separated.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can't have a mechanic and a medical doctor if those two areas of medicine aren't similar enough to be practiced by the same person.
I mean, apparently you can have a doctor and a judge.
There are like 8 people in their town, though. They gotta sort of make do with what
Yeah.
they have.
But also, if we count Mater's Tall Tales, which of course we do, Mater has like a thousand jobs.
He does, but a lot of them are like Matador and
Materdor,
Alien,
excuse you.
Alien Abductee in one of them. I can't remember.
Good point, good point. But like, what if the process of birth is just like you? Okay, so this. Have you ever heard of Stargate?
I've heard of it. I don't know very much about it.
Okay, so in Stargate, okay, this is gonna be gross. In Stargate, there's this race called the Gold, and they are a race of like weird, kind of semi-parasitic, but also symbiotic snakes that enter into humanoid bodies, and then they somehow make that body immortal and take over its mind. And like, I think you cut like an X into someone's stomach and then you put the worm in there. What if in this situation it's like the car gives birth by just like spitting out the gooey bit, and the gooey bit has to immediately go into and like snake into a body that like a pre-made kid-friendly body. And that's how birthing works. You like, if you're the doctor, you get the baseball glove of an empty shell of a body, and you just put it there and let the baseball slash go old slash icky gooey bit just slither into the body really fast.
I mean, that works. Did you say that they would just like cut off a part of themselves and it would become the baby, or would they physically give birth somehow? What do you think?
I don't know. It could be. Oh, well, here's the thing. I don't know if there is canonically a child who is biologically related in any way to both a mother and a father.
Okay.
Their Cruz, I think, mentions having parents, so that
Yeah.
would imply that there were two. And if we're hoping that those two parents are in some way like definitely both equal footing parents, that would mean that it can't just be one creature is uh what's it what's it called when a creature just splits off to procreate?
I mean, mitosis is what it's called with cells, but I don't think that's what you're going for.
I can't. It begins with A, I think.
Asexual reproduction?
Yeah. If it's asexual reproduction, then that would take that away. So I have to assume it's not asexual reproduction, which means our lights flashing to transfer data. Then one of the parents would have to take in the data somehow and then input that into its squishy bit. And then, have we seen a pregnant car? I don't think we've seen.
If we have, then I don't think we recognized it as one, because then every episode would be, oh my god, they had a pregnant car. What?
This podcast would not be about cars. It would be about that one pregnant car.
Absolutely, it would.
All right. So, like, a car gets pregnant, maybe, and then uh, comes out the exhaust? I don't know. Wherever.
I we've I remember floating the idea of like out of body fertilization, like how fish lay eggs and then the father fertilizes them. So it could be something like that,
It could be.
or
Did we say
or
something
if
like they could open their doors?
I remember
Bull.
their doors and their trunks were mentioned a lot when we talked about giving birth.
Oh boy. So maybe their trunk opens and there's the gooey bit, and then it just shoots into the first body that's available.
I mean, it would work, I guess. We could also, if we want to get back to my gross idea of them cutting a part of themselves off, which we both know I do,
Oh yeah.
uh, I guess both parents could sever a bit of their own goop and they could just combine together fully, like sort of cut out the middleman of, and just, you know,
And I do like this
they meet
universe.
together in the shell.
I do like this universe where both parents can be completely equal in the entire process. I like that.
Yeah, and then same sex couples could
Yeah,
reproduce just as easily. That'd be lovely.
that'd be great. So,
That's, I think, our first example of it being a good thing to live in the Cars
what's the
universe.
opposite of a dystopia?
Utopia.
You know, that's a really easy thing for me to have remembered that I just didn't. All right. So it could, like, we've got a point this episode for dystopia and a point for utopia.
I think we have more than one point for dystopia.
Yeah, we got a lot of points for dystopia. But yeah, so it could, there are good aspects to it,
You get to go real fast. That's another one. Chalk it up, boys.
especially Marco, because he can go up to maybe even greater than 500 miles per hour. That's spooky.
Yeah, I don't know that I would want to be. Well, we both know that if I could choose a superpower, it'd be super speed. So I'm not going to say that I don't want to go very fast. But I don't know. I also want the super reaction time to go along with that. Without
Yeah,
the the super increased reaction time, I would not want to go that
I think
fast without being in some sort of vehicle at the
yeah,
very
there's an
least.
accurate way of saying this of I don't want to be a person, a normal person who's just going that fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
If that were a natural thing for me and like I were exceptional because I was specifically designed to handle that, like say the Flash and his weird frictionless powers, that'd be perfectly fine. But if I'm a person and I'm moving at over 100 miles an hour just as a person, and there's nothing other than oh yeah, sometimes you can some people can just happen to go that fast. That's not okay.
It's really, really not.
So also this is a thing that we should talk about in just regards to aging. Lightning McQueen is clearly getting old in the third one. I haven't really brought this up
Yes.
because I haven't seen that movie. So there's that. But like the trailers made it clear like he was past his prime and there was a hot young stud trying to take his place.
I mean, yeah, that's the big thing with Cars 3. It's the whole plot, really. I mean, you can chalk a lot of it up to the technological advances of these cars, but they very much there's a lot of jokes that Cruz makes about Lightning being an old man. Like she treats him like he's like 60, 70 years old for a lot of their training montage. Uh, and I guess there is some sort of deterioration that comes along with that.
All right, so my question is how old is Lightning McQueen? We can probably figure out how old the model he was based on is.
Yeah, he's apparently intentionally created to be a combination of different models as opposed to most of the other cars, which are not that, is what I'm finding.
If we use the theory that we used for Doc Hudson, then he's a race car. He was made within the like first few years of him being a race car. So that would mean he's a few years old, which means that in the third movie he would be like 12 or 13, which would mean
Yeah, if we assume he's like 2 at the time of his like first movie, then yeah, he'd be maybe 14-ish, but around there,
okay,
yeah.
if he's 14 and
Oh, they age like horses.
yeah,
That's
they
horses are, I think their third year is when they race in the Kentucky
oh
Derby,
boy.
and then like right after that, they're not very good anymore.
Can you imagine a 14-year-old horse
I
racing?
cannot. That probably wouldn't be very
All
good.
right, so I'm going to look up. Oh boy. So their lifespan is about 25 to 30 years.
Ugh.
So
Did we have any more points we want to go on?
we didn't really talk about like childhood in the
Yeah, we didn't like what it would be
General,
like.
like, yeah, but we did talk about how it could only have lasted for 1 to 3 years. So, like, it'd have to have been fast. School would have been, like, school would have happened, but also it would have been super fast.
Yeah, and there was definitely school. Because again, Cruz says she ran laps every morning before school.
All right.
So that was a part of her childhood.
So, yeah, I think we're good on this episode. And then we'll talk about other aspects of that, like, we'll talk about school for children and also everyone else when we talk about school. We'll just we'll just leave this as an episode about unfortunate little tidbits about aging and childbirth. All right. Well, that does it for this episode. Remember to post a comment, subscribe, rate, email us, Twitter, tweet us. I don't know which one is that.
You could tweet at us, would be,
Tweet at us.
yeah, and those things are at the Kachat on twitter.com and the Kachat at gmail.com for any emails you want to send us. And I also want to say, because I feel like we've never said this in our little sign off things, thanks for listening to us if you are hearing this right now. It's really cool that you're doing that, and we really appreciate your support.
Same.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say after that.
Now you're the one who takes our fans for granted. They're going to talk about that in the fan fiction they write.
Well, it's not that I emotionally take them for granted. It's just I'm the edgy one who doesn't express his feelings.
Oh, you're emotionally unavailable. That's going to be pretty hot for them.
Yeah, I'm like the Keith from Voltron, but like
I was
a
going to say
new.
Raphael, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Is he the
Dang.
angry one, Raphael?
Yeah,
Yeah, cool.
he's the
I made the
Wolverine,
nerdier
but
reference.
worse.
Although Voltron's also pretty nerdy.
Yeah, but also like Keith is he's edgy. He's like the Shadow the Hedgehog of the group, but also like I like how he has a bunch of different arcs, and he's really interesting, and he actually changes as a character, and that's nice.
That
You
is.
heard me, audience. Change me, make me grow.
Also, with your mention of Shadow the Hedgehog, you've officially edged me out for the nerdier reference. But I guess till next time, I've been Lucas Southworth,
I've been John Bishop,
and don't forget to float like a Cadillac.
and sting like a beamer.
We didn't even have to talk about it and then edit it out that time. That's pretty good.
Nice. We could even include you saying that we should congratulate ourselves in like a blooper.
Why do you think I didn't stop recording yet?